Hello, hi, welcome back. Today we are making these beautiful trousers. Stay tuned. Okay, guys, so today we're making this beautiful pants or corporate trousers for female. You can also use this same procedure or process to make for a male version. You just have to tweak it a little. Okay, so you first start by folding in our fabric. You fold in, the amount of fabric you fold in will be dependent on your tie. So if your tie is 30, you divide your tie into two. So 30 divided by 2, which is 15. So your fold will be on a 15 fold. Okay, so afterwards we take the length of our trousers. We are making use of 40 inches length trouser. So we take our 40 inches, then we'll take our waist to hip, and then waist to crotch, and then waist to knee. So from our waist to hip, we'll go in by 9, and then from there we go to the crotch line. The crotch line can decide to divide your measurement into 4. So if your hip is, let's say, 44, which I think we're making use of 44 today, you divide it by 4, you have 11. So meaning your crotch length is going to be 11. But if you're going to add a band, you have to factor in the band as well. So you subtract your band from it, then you take your crotch length. So here about 1.5 inches of a band. So we take that out and then we mark our crotch line. Then from the crotch line we go to our knee length. So the knee length still from the waist to about 19 inches depending on the height of the person, but usually it's from 19, is between 18, 19 and 20. So we are making use of 19 inches length from the waist to the knee area. Then we mark our line. Now we're going to take our measurements, our round measurement. So like I said earlier, our tie measurement is 29.5. So 29.5 divided by 2. You're going to divide your tie measurement by 2 to get your tie. Then you go to your hip, the hip line. We are going to divide our hip by 4, and then our waist by 4, as I have indicated there, so you don't get confused. Your tie line, you're dividing your tie by 2, you divide your hip by 4, you divide your waist by 4, then you divide your ankle or your bust by 2. I hope this is clear enough. Okay, so after we make those divisions and we take our line. On the waist line, we're going to add a dart. So I'm going to add 2 inches dart extra on the waist line, because we're going to take a dart, or we're going to, in this case, we're going to pleat that dart. So we're going to add 2 more inches. And then we are going to come inwards by 1 inch so that we can shape the side of our trousers. You know, women, we have a little shape on her side, so our side is not that straight, it's a little curved. So we are going to come inside by 1 inch, and then we take our shaping rule and we shape it from that waistline, the 1 inch on the waistline, downwards to our hip line, creating that shape that we want. Okay, afterwards we stand on our hip point, and then we draw a curve connecting to our crotch point. From that, we're going to take our flap. We are cutting everything on. We're not cutting a separate flap. We are cutting everything on the trouser, which is quite easy to sew. So we add a flap of 2 inches. from the waist and the hip line. So from the waist to the hip line, we take a flap of about 7 or 8 inches, which is fine. So we connect that line as well. Our flap is 2 inches. So you take 2 inches outwards from the waist and 2 inches outward from the hip. Now we come to our ankle area. So from our ankle, we just divide our whole measurement, our whole fold into two, because we're making somewhat pencil trousers. So we divide it into two equal parts. So the 15 that we folded divided by 2, which is going to give us 7.5. Now 7.5 is going to give us our center point. So we stand on the 7.5, and then we divide our bust measurement equally on both sides of the 7.5. So say your bust measurement is 16. So 16 are like around your ankle is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. So we are going to divide the 8 for both sides of the 7.5. I hope you understand me. Okay. So afterwards we connect, or we rule our line straight from the crotch line straight down to one side of our ankle length, or our ankle measurements that we have taken. We do same for the other side of our hip. We connect from our hip or our crotch line straight down to our ankle measurement, or our ankle measurement that we've taken on our fabric, like so. So guys, in case this is not a beginner tutorial, so if you're a beginner, you might be finding it a little challenging, but you feel free to ask me any question. Okay, so we are going to curve the front side of our trousers. We're going to go down by 1 inch, sorry, and then we curve it downwards. But because our flap, we are going to fold it back, we don't curve the flap. We only curve from the waist to the front side of the waist, like the center front of the trousers, to the side of the trousers, like how I'm doing right now. Then afterwards we take we create our darts. I told you we are going to take a dart from here. So from the waistline, the center front waist, we go in by 3.5, and then we take our 2 inches. This we are indicating so that we don't forget that there is a dart. In our case, we are adding a pleat. So the 2 inches, instead of that for the front side, we are going to pleat it on the front side. But for the back side, we are going to sew a dart, a proper dart. Now we are done with the front side, so I'm cutting everything out. So this is how the front trouser pattern looks like. So for the back, I'm just going to lay the front pattern on the fabric for the back. So remember, for the front we folded in by 15 inch. So for the back we are going to add extra 3 inches. So now our fold is going to be 18 inches. The front was 15 inches, the back plus extra 3 inches. Don't forget. Okay, so after we fold the 18 inches, we lay the front part on our fold. Then we make sure that the sides are equal, but the allowance, the 3 inches allowance, is in front, or is at where our crotch is. That is where the 3 inches allowance that we added for the back is going to be. The sides will be equal. Okay, so after we do this, we take on the crotch line, we are going to extend it. That is the whole reason why we even added the 3 inches in the first place, because we are going to extend or add all our allowances. Bear in mind, the front part, we didn't add any sewing allowance or anything like that. We are going to add all that at the back pattern. Okay, so on the waistline, we will fold back our flap, because the flap is not part of the trousers. So we are going to fold it back to get our original measurement, original waist and hip measurement. So after we fold it in, take our measurement. We take our measurement, adding our allowances. So on the waistline, I add 2 inches. On the hip line, 2 inches. And then on the crotch line, 3 inches. All the extensions or all the allowances I'm adding. The waistline 2 inches, the hip line 2 inches, the crotch line 3 inches. And then remember the slope we took from the front part. We sloped from the waist side that we added. We took a slope out of 1 inches. The back we are rather going to replace and even add. So the back, you extend the back, center back by 2 inches, and then you slope it down to the side of the waist, like shown, like you're seeing right now. Okay, so afterwards, on our knee line, we are going to add 2 inches, and then on our ankle, we are going to add 1.5 inches. These are all the allowances we are going to need. All the sewing allowances and every other allowance you're going to need. This is what we are going to be working with. So afterwards, I connect my lines. Again, this kind of trousers will be quite difficult for a beginner because it's a little technical. So if you're a beginner, I'm sure you'd have a lot of questions. Feel free to ask any question. If I can't explain, I would explain to your understanding. So this is all for the back. The back is quite simple. This is all for the back. So we cut the back pattern out too. So as you can see, I added all the sewing allowances on the back. For the fronts, I didn't add any sewing allowance. I decided to add everything on the back piece. So don't forget to add all the allowances that you would need. And the crotch back 3 inches, on the knee 2 inches, and the ankle 1.5 inch, and then you extend the back waist by 2 inches, and then you slope it down to the side. Okay, so now coming to take the pockets. We have 2 pockets on the sides, so I go in. The length of my pocket is going to be 12. So 12 by 12. I'm going to use 12 by 12. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces of 12 by 12 inches for my pockets. Okay, so I have 2 pieces for the pockets, the left and the right. So the pockets, we're going to fold it into 2 like this. And then we're going to go in by 7 inches. Please watch carefully, pay attention here. And then we're going to curve downwards from the center on the fold to the 7-inch, but we're going to come down by 1 inch because we want an allowance. So you just curve in to the 7 inches downwards, but you leave 1 inch, sorry, get the curve. Now you open it up and then you take back your 7 inches, you go inwards by 2 inches, and then you connect it to that 7-inch line. You can decide to curve it, you can decide to slant it, whichever shape that you want for the pocket is fine. Now notice I'm doing this on just one side of the pocket, not both sides. So afterwards, if you fold it this way, you're going to see the pocket forming already. I'm going to show you how it is done on the trousers itself. So I bring back the front piece, because the pocket is obviously on the front piece. So I bring back the front piece, then I lay the pocket, the side where I curved or the side where I cut out, I lay that side on the side of the trousers, and then I cut the same shape on the front piece of the trousers. The same shape of the pocket that I cut out, I'm cutting the same shape on the trousers, on the side of the trousers. So after I cut on the trousers, this is how I am going to do it. You take one piece, and then we're going to sew that curve together, the pockets and one piece of the center pieces. Then after we sew that curve, we flip it to the other side, the wrong side of the fabric, and then we bring the leftover of the fabric to replace the cut out side, or the side that we cut out. The leftover of the fabric of the pocket, we bring it back to replace that cutout. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how it is done on the machine so that you understand clearly. So first of all, we are going to pleat our dart. Our 2-inch dart, we're going to pleat it on the front pieces of the trousers. And then for our flap area, the 2-inch in front, the 2 inches in front for the flap, we are gonna apply our interface, because we want that part to harden, because that's going to be our flap or our flyer, popularly known, our flyer. So we're going to stiffen it with our interface. Okay, so this is how we are going to do the pockets I was talking about. You lay the pocket on the front piece of the trousers, and then you sew that curve. After you sew the curve, you just notch the curve so that it will be more relaxed. Then you top stitch that area you just sew. You top stitches on the pocket piece, not on the trouser, on the pocket side. You top stitch on it. After you top stitch, you go and press it so that it lies down neatly as possible. After pressing it, you bring it back to your machine, and then the leftover you flip back to replace that cutout, as I was showing you earlier. Okay, so after you replace the cutout, this is what we have. Remember, we cut out that pocket area or that shape out of the trousers. Now we replace it with the leftover of the pocket piece. So you can see we've already formed our pockets. We are almost done with the pockets. You just have to secure all the pieces together. So I just stitch straight down to keep the pockets and the trouser piece together. to prevent it from flipping here and there. Afterwards, on the side, I stitch along that side as well to keep the pockets stitched to the trousers. Okay, so now for the curve, we just sew along the curve. You need to be very careful when doing this because we want to have a very neat finish at the end of the day. We want our pockets and our trousers to come out as neatly as possible. So we are done with our pockets. As you can see our pleats and then our pockets all neatly done. Now we get to the flyer or the flap. So on that 2 inches, you just fold in again by half on that 2 inch. Then you insert your zipper in between that fold. And then you stitch straight along. And the part where you've inserted. Just stitch straight down on the part where you've inserted. Afterwards, you bring back the other piece. Remember the front pieces are 2, so you bring back the other piece. You lay it perfectly on the first piece, making sure all the sides are matching. Then you sew along the curve. After arranging it perfectly, you sew 1/2 inch along that curve. Not starting from the waistline, just starting at where the zipper ended. Then you sew both pieces, that curve, you sew both of them together. So after sewing both of them, if you flip it, this is how it looks. All this is to create our flyer or our flap. So this is how it looks. So now with every flyers, you see that curve you see on your flyer trousers, already made flyer trousers when you wear. We are going to create that curve as well in front. So you flip the back of it and then you attach the other side of the zipper to the flipped in flap that we cut. Guys, I don't know how to explain this better, but please pay attention and watch. Just by watching, I'm sure you're going to get it. So after you attach the other side of the zipper to the flyer side, you just stitch straight down as well. Don't forget to ask me any question because I know this is quite some way. Okay, so afterwards, this is how it looks like. Then we are going to lay them together, as you can see. As you can see, we are going to sew on the front or the right side. We are going to sew our curve now on the right side of the trousers. So you make sure that you are not sewing both flaps underneath together. So you open it up on the wrong side and then you mark your curve on the front side. and then we sew our curve. Maybe I'll probably do a separate video later on. If you should want that, just comment below a separate video on how to make a flyer, just that, so that you would get it more clearer. Okay, so this is the final look of our trouser flyer or placket. Neatly done. So we are done with the front side of the trousers. Now we're going to attach the back. We are joining the back piece to the other. So we take the left side of the trouser back piece, we lay it on the left side of our front piece, then we sew all through by half an inch. Okay, so after we sew the side pieces, we are going to open it up and then press, because we want everything to look as neat as possible. So after joining both sides and then pressing, we now bring the back together, the back pieces together. So you see the front pieces are facing each other, the back pieces are facing each other. Now we take our waist measurements from the trousers. We retake our waist measurement, and then we take our hip measurement. So we draw a line or a curve, since that area is a curve to connect our waist to our hip, then to our crotch. But before that, before we sew our crotch, the back, the center back, we're going to attach our band. So I'm cutting out the band we are going to use. Our waist is 34, so we are going to cut a band about 38, because the band we are going to extend it a little, because we will need some for our buttonholes and even the allowance we are leaving at the center back. So you make sure you add a few inches to your waist when you're cutting the band, because if you cut it equally, you're going to be short. So after cutting, I add my interface, then I bring it to sew. I attach it to the waistline. You see how I attach it to the waistline? I folded in by half. I covered the zipper area by half an inch. So if you had cut it equally, you would short. So afterwards, I just attach the band straight to the waistline. I do that separately for both sides, the left side and the right side. So this is one side of the trouser, and that is the other side of the trouser. I added the band separately. I've still not joined the back of the trousers yet. So you're going to press the sewn allowance so that you have that neat line that you want. So I'm now going to join the center back of my trousers. This is done so that afterwards you would have a very neat finish from the back. So I make sure all my sewn lines or my edges are lining up perfectly. I don't want one line longer than the other. So you make sure the lines are all lining up perfectly or correctly. So I retake my waist measurements because the first one I took the waist measurement without the band. Now that I have the band on, I take my waist measurement again. Then I connect it back to the one I took first. Then I sew it straight down. So now, as you can see, I am joining my center back of my trousers. I stitch it from the band straight down to the crotch at the back of the trousers. I think if you follow every step keenly, I'm sure you'd be able to even do this as a beginner, because I think this tutorial is quite detailed. So you see how the band is looking now. So from the allowance we spoke about, you're just going to fold it in. Okay, so now you fold the left over, you flip it back, the leftover of the band, you flip it back to cover the inside of the trousers. As I am doing, you flip it back. So after flipping it to cover the other side, you bring it under the machine and you sew from the right side of the trouser. Like I said, we want these trousers to look as neat as possible so that we can compete with the already made market. So we are sewing it as neat as possible. If you sew it from the right side of the fabric, you make sure you are sewing in between the lines so that no stitch will be shown at the end of the day when you're done. So you see how neat the band is looking. You see how neat the finishing is. So we are done. This is how our trousers is made. Now I'm just going to cut belts. I want to attach belts on the sides, so I'm just going to cut my belts and then join the down part of my trousers together, and then hem my ankle area. Then we are done. So this is how it looks after I join the down part of my trousers. Neatly done. So I'm going to put it on and show you how it looks. But guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe, okay? Okay, so this is how our trouser is looking. Don't you love it? It's beautiful. Thank you so much guys for watching. Please subscribe for more and don't forget to comment below. Thank you.